Hello, 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 hello. Good evening, everyone. Happy Sunday to you all, and we hope you had a great weekend. We are still in the month of dyslexia awareness, and today's conversation is something that I've been looking forward to. Last week, we had a great time with our all dyslexic panels who are adults, and we really went into some details. And today is parents' perspective, and I am excited about it because for parents, they are going to share how they even got to find out their children are dyslexic, and what support they got from the school, some of the challenges they had to face before even diagnosing their children, and the support they currently have for their kids and how they are doing it. And I feel this conversation is very important for everybody from the education part and also the parent perspective. If you find out that your child is dyslexic or your child is struggling, what do you do? And then, even as the school, how do you welcome the situation once the child has been assessed? And so, I'm very happy today to bring my fantastic parents who are willing to share their experience to you, and they are going to tell us their experience. So let me welcome all of them. We have Dr. Ablo, and we have Ekia Sapong, and then we also have Agnes Ejapon, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, parents. I am so excited you are here with me today. And all of you have had one way or the other chats with you. And I really know all of you very well. And I know the fantastic work you've been doing for our champions. But I know that you do not wake up just yesterday and then you started doing what you do. You're getting the support out there, and so I would go, as I see on the screen, I will go to Dorcas. And Dorcas, can you tell us briefly about your situation? How did you even first come out to find out that your child uh, is dyslexic? What was going on in the house? I want you to touch on how did you find out, and even before you find out, how were you treating Abrina at home? And then from there we go to Agnes and then Ekia, and then we come to our next set of questions. Thank you.
Okay. So we got to find out when she was in class one. Actually, when she got to class four before we realized this was her condition. But right from class one, we didn't know what was wrong with her. Three-letter words, two-letter words, she wasn't able to mention. And we became worried. And we knew nothing about dyslexia. For us, we expect our child to be brilliant. She should be able to mention certain words. She should be able to read at her stage, or so we were expecting a lot from her. Unfortunately, it wasn't like that until she got to grade four. It became worse. And then we had someone teaching her at home. So that person recommended us to take her to the hospital. He suggested we take her to the hospital. And we did that. And lo and behold, she was diagnosed. And before then, in fact, we weren't nice at all to her. We treated her badly. In fact, we're always shouting on her, beating her, making just to make sure that she's able to spell, she's able to read, she's able to match up with her colleagues. So we were doing all we could, not knowing we were rather hurting the girl. And knowing nothing about dyslexia, when we got to know about it, in fact, we all felt bad, we regretted, and then promised her that we're going to do all we can to help her, to support her.
Wow. Wow. So that's that point where it's like before we found out we were not nice to her. And I just can imagine how many kids do you have?
I have three, and the second one, she's the opposite. Actually, when it comes to reading, spelling. So imagine your backbone. who is not at your stage. She's able to read, she's able to write, she's able to spell, and you being the senior not being able. We were like, hey, what is going on? Are you being lazy? Is it that you are not willing or trying to study? You're not pushing harder. You need to push harder. You have to read. You have to do this. We did all sort of things to her. And so we got to know she's dyslexic.
Wow, wow, wow. And I can imagine it was a challenge because for she's the firstborn, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
so
she's
she
the
has
first.
these little ones looking up to her and all these
Exactly,
challenges were
yes.
going on. Oh my goodness. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Let's go to Agnes. Agnes.
Hi.
So Agnes' daughter is Imara and such a fantastic. So all these parents here, their kids are so fantastic. Like you have no idea. And to imagine that they had to struggle a little bit to find out and be able to offer the support. Let's hear from Agnes to know her situation with her daughter.
Great. So I have three children, and my daughter's my oldest. So when she was, I would say from about 5, 6, we would be reading, and she would be moving the words around. So a little bit like our previous panelist was saying, it, 2 letter words, 3 letter words. And actually, it was a teacher of hers in year one who kind of suggested that potentially she could have dyslexia. But we're based in the UK, and in year three, what happens is all of the children are screened for dyslexia. So between year one and year three, I'm like, okay, my child, I was kind of concerned about, are they in school? Will there be adequate provisions for her, knowing that potentially she has this dyslexia? Um, so when we got to year three and they did the screening, I kept on, asking the teachers, has she got it? Has she got it? Because that's when they do their official screening. And all the teacher said is, oh, it looks like she may have dyslexia, but therefore you need to put like a red sheet or different colored paper and it will help her. So for me, I was actually concerned with that because I can't speak French. If you ask me to put sheet over the paper, I will still not be able to speak French. So I'm not saying that the sheet over isn't going to help certain children, but my understanding of dyslexia was that it's unique to every child, just like you have autism, or you have even if somebody has broken their leg, somebody might break it by the shin, somebody might break it further down, someone might break it up. So for me, I was very much about what does my daughter have and what is her needs. Of course, even though I'm born and raised in the UK, I'm Ghanaian, so the education side of, I want my daughter to excel, that is deep in my DNA. Um, so I think for me though, it was a little bit different. I was brought up in a very strict Ghanaian household, and so I didn't want to put that pressure on my daughter. But equally, again, as I said, I wanted her to excel. I started to flip it around. So I put my daughter into drama very early. And even though, you know, reading at that time wasn't really her thing. You have to read scripts, and she's very dramatic, very bold, and we have that with a lot of our dyslexic children. They're very confident. Their strengths are in different areas, and because she wanted to act and do drama, it meant that she was reading the scripts all the time, and she was trying to get it. And you've met my daughter, Rosalind, so you already know. And so I started learning in that journey that actually it's not necessarily that my child will never be able to read. It's that they just need more time, more patience, more support in that area. And so because my daughter had to keep on reading the script, the more she was doing it and practicing, the more her reading was getting better. Equally, I was buying my daughter like fiction books, and she wasn't learning to read. I didn't know my daughter by the age of 7 is a little historian. So once I started finding out, okay, my daughter likes history. She likes African history. She likes African American history. She likes Greek history. She likes all these things. I remember there was one summer, I bought her so many books. She was 2 stages lower in her reading at where she should be. And that really concerned me because I knew reading is the gateway to everything for children. So whether it's English, if you're not reading well you're not going to read your exam question for maths, you're not going to read correctly for geography. So I was really keen to find out what her interests were. So once I found out that it was history, I started buying her so many books. Within that 6 week summer holiday, she went up 2, 3 levels, and now she's in year 6. She's at the top level in her English. I mean, in her reading. But also writing was a challenge for her, because with my daughter, she has a photographic memory. So she loves history. She's very good at the reading now. And the more she would be reading and understanding the books, the more it would be on her knowledge. So if you would ask her anything about the Greeks, the African history, in fact, you'll run away. You'll wish you didn't ask her, because she'll start with 1442, then 1483. Your head, you'll be like, okay, okay. But when it comes to translating that, yeah, now writing it down, her knowledge base in her head was not going. Now, what I did for me, there's a speaker, a very famous speaker, a YouTuber. Well, he's not a YouTuber, he's a speaker, but I saw him via YouTube. He's got no arms, no legs. Yeah. So for me, I had the philosophy that if somebody with no arms, no legs is out there speaking, inspiring the world, he's married, he has a beautiful family. It's not my child with dyslexia that I'm now going to pull down. I need to find out what her gift is, and then that's my job now as the parent. Some children are born, they're deaf. Some children are born, they're black. Look at Stevie Wonder. And so the more I started to understand that sometimes the school education system that we have is geared towards one type of child. And if you fit that mold, as in being able to read the books and regurgitate it for exams, you are fine. But if you're outside of that mold, it becomes a challenge. I just really wanted to start encouraging my daughter and find out what her brilliance is. What does she enjoy? And since doing that, to be honest, I will say that her education, because now she owns her dyslexia. She will tell you about her dyslexia. She's not hiding any part of herself. She's reading. Even the other day, she came to me and she was like, "Oh, mummy, I'm not really bothered about writing too much, because you know what I do is I will write, I will talk onto the phone, and it's now dictating everything I've got to say." And I was like, "Well done." I hadn't even thought to tell her to do that. So she is now, I think what I just want to put out there to parents who are going through that challenge is that the main thing is your child's confidence. And a lot of the times it's not the dyslexia that is making our child not excel, or whatever other neurodiversity they have. It's the fact that we're beating out, and not we as in fortunately that wasn't my story with my daughter, but we as in, whether it's physically, whether it's psychologically, whether it's emotionally, whether it's mentally, we are pulling down our children. So when we pull them down and they lose their confidence, whatever gift they have, whether they were going to be the next artist, we've lost them. Whether their job was to be the next singer, we've lost them. Whether it was to be the next fashion designer, we have lost them. Whether my daughter is brilliant at mathematics, whether it was to be a mathematician, we've lost them. So I suppose for me, my journey has been about making sure the school recognize my daughter's brilliance. I go for anyone that kind of you can't really come for my child, if that makes sense, because I know she's brilliant and nobody will tell me my child is not brilliant. So that's my number one part. Number two, I would say it's about finding out her gift. If my daughter doesn't know Pythagoras rule, how many of you still remember Pythagoras rule from your school? Many of you do not know. So we cannot be pulling our children down for the things that we ourselves, we're not even using in our adulthood, So I think, yeah, it's just about empowering our children to be confident in themselves. And then I suppose then challenging the school system to be able to make sure that what we are doing at home, they are also empowering our children in the school setting as well.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love that. And I love the point you made that, listen, it's not the dyslexia that is killing our children or demeaning our children or killing their dreams, but it is the worst we are saying to them, the environment they are experiencing in school, you not advocating for your child as a parent. That is what is killing them. And I feel like that is key. If anyone is watching and you're a parent or even a teacher and you don't take anything from the conversation today, remember words are very powerful. And for somebody like me who got diagnosed with dyslexia very late, I can say yes to that because the words that were said to me when I was young, those words still play in my mind today. And that is the reason why, even any moment, I've done this global conversation since 2020. And yet, any moment I'm coming on, just like today, I'm like, oh my goodness, I hope I'm not going to make mistake. Can I really interview them well?
You can, but can I just add? And you see, the interesting part is that Rosa, your industry is in cooking. That's your gift, right? And so imagine we are pulling our children down, and the gift is not even in the thing that we are pulling them down in, because your gift always, well, that's your talent. That's the gift that God put in you. So again, it sometimes we are comparing ourselves to a system. But what I will say is a very important fact in the UK and the US, something like 40% of billionaires in US dollars, not CDs, by the way, yeah, have dyslexia, right? 40%. So something that we are throwing away our children in the African landscape because we do not understand that. Yeah. Somebody else is understanding their child's neurodiversity and empowering them in their creativity to be able to move forward, if that makes sense. So it's very important. 40%, even more, billionaires, US dollars. You now as the parent, are you sure you want to pull that child down? Or will you not want to see how you can activate? For some of us, it might be early retirement. Do you see what I mean? God is giving us our blessing and we are pulling them. So we need to.
Right. I absolutely agree with you. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll go to Ekia Sapon to hear her how she discovered her son. And my goodness, wait until you meet Ekia's son. I think you know what? Maybe after this, I don't know if the parents will allow, but if they don't allow, when you are in Ghana, I'm going to make sure Imara meets Equia upon son, Ebrina meets the three of them and other children that I know that are dyslexic. They meet. These guys can, we have to be careful. They can either sell us out
I'm
because
sure they will.
their creative mind is just something else. So, Madam Equia, please go ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Rosalind. Thank you so much for having me. And it's interesting because I think we all have the same stories. We all, for all of us, it's our first children, and you know how the expectation is always very high. Of course, as Ghanaian parents. So, of course, my first, he's turning 13, and so I, I guess my first foray into knowing that he was different was when he was 3. I think so. It was about 3, and he was in this school, little crash, really really sweet school. And of course, at that time, they're doing. In fact, they started doing 3-letter words at the time. And every time they did their numbers and they did their letters, Kofi always flipped his letters and numbers. So E is always flipped, 5 is always backward, 6 is always backward, 7 you still is 9. We couldn't tell the difference between 9 and P. So, it was always so letters generally were being flipped. I think that was for me the first sign that I knew. Did I even think something was off? But you know how everybody kept saying, "Oh, it's fine. Boys are late bloomers. It will come round. Don't panic. Boys are a lot slower." So we kind of carried on, and in the school that he was, I mean, the kids were generally very good because even at 4, I remember they were a lot of them could read the newspaper at 4, and he was still struggling with his letters and the numbers. And I'd gone to pick him up from school once, and all the kids were playing. This was about maybe 2 o'clock, and all the kids were playing, and my son wasn't on the playground. So I asked where he was, and they said, oh, he was in school because he wasn't doing his numbers, and he had been asked to stay back to do his numbers. And I flipped like he's a child. He's only 3 years old. Children are supposed to be playing. Whether he's good with his numbers or not, really, he's not going to write the GMAT at 3 years old. Come on, give me a break. And so that was when I started having a conversation with the school and trying to understand where the gaps were. So I did some more investigation. I met this lady who taught special needs. So I figured she would be a good place to start. And I think at that time, God, there's so many things I still can't remember because it's, we've kind of gone past that. And at that time, he was struggling with ADD as well, attention deficit, and maybe plus or minus the hyperactive, but he was just a hyper little boy. So everything was just extra. Everything was, he had so much energy. Everything was just a lot. And so that's when I figured, okay, there was something we needed to do a bit more. And I learned very early on that for him, it was repetition, would still have to keep repeating the same thing. You can do a whole, hour of cat, man, pat, and in an hour, spell cat and a Z cube P. I mean, it was just mind blowing how it was the strangest letters he was mentioning. And like Doc has, it was a struggle. It's my first child. He's a boy. Expectations are high. I didn't understand it. I was losing my patience. Other kids were far ahead, and I was trying to compare my son to them, and it was difficult. I mean, it was tough. And so I moved him. So I figured that big classes wasn't what he required. So I moved him to another school, thankfully, that had about just 5 children. It was a newer school, so I felt, he would get a bit more attention in the school. So we did that. And, so he was getting a little comfortable. But unfortunately, the teacher at the time, a trained teacher, proper trained teacher, had been to the University of Cape Coast, and they train as, teachers. So they know what they're doing. And I'm one of those parents, I'm always checking in, so how is he doing? What's he good at? What's he not good at? Today, what did he pick up? What did he not pick up? How should I support, in which of the gaps should I help? And I remember clearly the teacher telling me, so I think by then, maybe by the time he was about 4, and we had our first discussion with a clinical psychologist to understand where we were, maybe about 5, I think. So the psychologist, we did some tests, but nothing major. But I remember the psychologist said, he didn't want to label and diagnose at the time, but we should just carry on, give it a year and see where we were. So back at school, I'm having a conversation with the teacher, and the teacher was, oh no, he's so lazy. And I flipped again. I mean, listen, I'm the biggest supporter of my child. I know my child. He's smart, he's sweet, he's got high EQ, and lazy and thick should never be the things to describe him. So I kind of reported the teacher to the principal. But one of the things I remember so well at that time, I think it was by then, this time he was in year 2, was how the other children related. Kids are cruel. Kids are so cruel. And there was a kid who I remember so well. They told my son, "Oh, you're just not smart. You're pretty stupid." And my kid came home upset, and I told him, "Go back to school tomorrow and tell her the ribbons in her hair I call it ugly, So, the next time she shouldn't come telling you nonsense. So, that's how we kind of started supporting and understanding that he needed our support. Like Agnes, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what he liked, what his strengths were. And strangely, like Agnes, for him, it was history. I don't. Hearing the two of you, it's really interesting. It was history for him. Very early on, he loved it. I didn't know about Marco Polo. He knew about Marco Polo and would tell me all the stories about Marco Polo and the dates. So I thought, okay, there's one thing that we like. So let's figure out the other things that he could equally like. So then we enrolled him in swimming. So I had a chat with someone who said, swimming is good because it helps focus their attention. And one of the things they do as swimmers, young swimmers, is to drop things at the bottom of the pool. And by them straining and focusing on the object, it helps them focus and slow their brains because their brains are so fast. I mean, the speed of the brain are a lot faster than ours. So these were all the things we thought it would help. But what was interesting was the swimming now became a game changer because he was so good at swimming. And for the first time, he was winning. He was winning medals and, he was always at the top of the game. And so this was when for us, we started talking about, listen, you're good. If you can be good in the pool, then you have to believe that you're equally good in other areas. It might not be reading, but there's more to you. And for us, that opened the doorway and, allowed us a bit of comfort in speaking to him and letting him understand that he's at the top of everybody else. He's just smarter than all of us. And for us, that's when, I think things started leveling out and giving us the peace and the patience to work with him, to understand him better, to know how well to support him, and really just to be his champion. And, like all of you, that was one of the things I did. And I think that really helped. It's just to be the champion for him. That even at the times when he didn't believe himself, you're hyping him. He gets 1/10. It's still 1/10. 1 out of 10 could have been zero. But you just have to make him, but you have to. I'm the biggest hype woman. You hype him till he believes anything because really, when he starts believing, it raises his confidence and it helps him do more and push himself just a little bit more. And really, that has been our journey, I believe, with dyslexia.
Wow, 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 wow. Isn't this beautiful? Like when we think about the positive side, look at their strengths, help them to start recognizing what they are good at. Yes, reading is good because reading, you read a lot of things and get through to things, but then there are other great talents our champions have that most of the time we bury them because we only expect them to perform academically. There are a lot of first class children or students on the streets or graduates on the streets. So what would you rather do? Building your child's strength and the gifts that they came with versus you rather saying all those words, you lazy, you dumb, you this and all that to really kill their dreams up. Please, if you're watching us, we are hanging out with Agnes. She is the founder and CEO of Global Black Maternal Health, and Dr. Ablo with Agile Ventures, and also Equia Sapon Lifeline for Childhood Cancer. All my mothers, they are all life changers, you see. And so, if you are out there changing people's life, then the best you can do is at least change your child's life. Then you can give that support. And so, they are really, really killing it out there, restoring hope, giving lives and purpose to people. And so today we're hanging up with them. They are sharing their experience of raising dyslexic children, and all of their children are between the age of 9 to 13. And so please stay tuned, send in your comments, send in your questions, and let us ask them once we get to answer your questions. Please, especially I see some educators there, and I have to say a shout out to Lucy Ayodo. She is the prince. I hope I pronounced your name very well. She's the principal of International Community School, Kumasi. And we have Dr. Bernard, who is also joining us from New York. Dr. Bernard is one of our trainers and a huge, huge supporter for the Africa Dyslexia Organization. We have Mida joining us from Guyana and Tebogo Gabana from Botswana. I mean, dyslexic who is trying to pronounce people's name. I'm butchering people's name all over. So we will continue the conversation, and then please send in your comments. Also share the link with others so that they are here. I don't know why a lot of people are not here. Let them know. We need about 100 people online so that we can get this message out there. So share the link with everyone. Now back to you, mothers. So for me, as growing up, I never got the support, and the teachers that were teaching me never knew about it. But it looks like listening to you, you were able to kind of get some form of support, if not major, some sort of support for your children. My question, and any of you can take it, is how about the many parents as well who don't know what to do? If they find out that their child is dyslexic, what can they do from the start? And I think Dorcas hasn't spoken, so you can try that, and then we can go in the other again. Dorcas, you're muted.
Ensure
Okay,
that,
you can start.
yeah,
Yeah.
so parents who realize their children don't have dyslexia should, first of all, have patience and then show them more love because they get discouraged easily. They get confused. So if we don't treat them well, if we don't encourage them, we don't motivate them, it makes things worse for them. So I would encourage every mother to love her child, or parents who think their children are dyslexic should be patient, should love their child, help her to accept her condition, and then we should also help the child to do what he or she can do best. So, like you said, Abriana can draw, she can paint, she can play the piano, she can dance, she can sing. Apart from reading and writing, there are a lot of things that she can do. Her strengths, let's identify their strengths and then help them to do more there so that they can, in fact, do something that will make them happy. We shouldn't focus only on the writing and reading, the academics, not just that, but something that would make them also feel that, yes, me too, I did, me too, I am somebody. We need to encourage them so they also feel good about themselves.
Okay,
So
before
every
you
parent out there, mhm.
go ahead.
Yes, Lady Rita. Okay, so every parent should, whether you know your child is dyslexic or not, as it stands now, no one knows until you are diagnosed. You don't know. So if you see some signs, some symptoms, a child is not able to read, not able to mention some words, the writing isn't going well, we just have to be patient, relax. First of all, have time for the child, make sure he or she is even okay first, and then we can seek for advice or go to the hospital, go and see neurologists, whoever you think can help you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I intentionally asked this question now because I want, if a parent is online before they drop off this, that everyone is going to say yes to them before they go off. That's why I am taking this question now, because it's very important. Like, whether you know or you don't know, what can you do in the house yourself? What can you do to support your child? I feel like when you are able to support the child in the house properly, that is where you are even able to go to the school. If a teacher tells you that, oh, mother, I think your child is very lazy, she's not learning, he is not learning. That is where you can be able to stand up and be like, please, like what Ekia did, don't call my child like that. I don't want you to say that. So, Ekia, what do you do? Like, what advice would you give to a parent who either knows or they just simply know that their child is not good and they are almost giving up?
For me, it's three things. First one, honesty with self. You've got to be very honest very early on that your child is different, your child is special, your child has is the best that God gave you. Like Doka said, and patience. You have to learn to be patient. I can't explain it any further. It's so important because for us, we quickly go from 0 to 100 when we don't get, what we expect to see. And I had to learn to calm every time I'm teaching my son. You literally have to speak to yourself to calm down. Because with my son, if you raise your voice, he shuts and nothing seeps through. So it's very, very important to learn the patience, but also honesty with self to know that, like I said, I have a different child. He has he has a need, and the child needs me. I've met a lot of parents, who have dyslexic children and they won't admit it to themselves. So their children are struggling. I have a friend, very dear friend, whose children are in GIS. And one of the four kids is straight up dyslexic, has all the classic signs. And I keep telling her, move the child. So my son went to multi kids. A multi kit is a special needs, but it's multi, so it's got regular kids and kids with all sorts of special needs. Amazing school. And this my friend kept telling, oh, I can't take my child to multi kids because they're kids who are deaf, they're kids who have cerebral palsy, and I really can't allow my child to mix in there. But unfortunately, that child is so unhappy in GIS, it doesn't even make sense. So that's one, honesty with self, and then everything else will begin to start making sense. And two, thankfully, we are in an age where information is so accessible and it's free. So as parent, you read everything you can on dyslexia, on whatever case your child is dealing with. Read everything you can, and it's available. Once you start keying it in, you have also the different ways of teaching the child. I mean, I figured very early on that Jolly Phonics was not the way to teach dyslexic kids, and Sounds Right was a better way to teach dyslexic kids because they visualize and they hear differently. So you can do Jolly Phonics. The third thing for me as a parent, I would advise is make the necessary investment. Our kids are not cheap at all. And if we want them to get to the point where they're comfortable, they're confident, and they can be the best at themselves, we've got to put in, the investment where it counts. But what program haven't I bought? What app haven't I paid for? But for me, I've seen how it helped him learn differently in the way that best suits him. So yes, instead of buying that expensive bag, I'd rather invest in whether it's a course or I have to learn the course that I can learn. So I learned how to do Sounds Right. I don't know if you know for Agnes whether it's the same thing you do. I had to study Sounds Right to be able to teach or help him better. That's two. And the last thing is for me and my son, we make learning fun. So much fun. So typically when we're driving, we start reading signboards. And so we're coming up to a signboard. So what are the words? Quick, quick, quick. Can you read it? So he'll try. And then, but at least even driving for 20 minutes, we probably would be able to learn two new words. And in learning the words, you can explain to him what the word means, how to use the words. So it's not just reading, it's now making sense of words as well. One of the things I used to do when I was much younger was I remember teaching him how to do fractions. And we use everything around us to learn everything. So, for instance, even pizza. I taught him how to do fractions with pizza. Pizza has 8 slices. So if you take one, it's 1/8. If you eat 4 of the slices, it's half, you know. And but I learned to use everything, everything around me to do the teaching, to do the learning, to learn new things and to make him very comfortable and to be better at himself. So yeah, as a parent, be honest with yourself. Your child is different, your child is special, but it's you. I mean, you are the only one to make it better. You as a parent. You're the only one because you're the only one that can believe your child better than anybody. Nobody has your child's back like you do as a parent. That's why God gave the child to you. So you're the only one. So you've got to be the champion, be honest with yourself, make the investment. It's very, very important. You have to make the investment. And it's available. Like Agnes, about the red sheets. I've got all these strips that we put on the lines. So we're not distracted. We read one line at a time. Listen, anybody tells me anything that would fix anything, I'm getting it. Some of them work, some of them don't. But for me, I am certainly putting one foot forward to ensure that I have done everything, for him to be the best at himself. And as God is my witness, I don't think we've ever spoken the word dyslexia in this house in the last maybe 4 or 5 years because we found what he's good at. So we tried. Cambridge is not great for my child. IB is fantastic. It's expensive, but it's more research based and he's great at research. He's great at presentations. He's got a very inquiry mind. So he's always searching and wants to know the answers. We still go through the whys. So I had to make the investment to ensure that I get, what is best for him. And he's excelling. He's doing well. He wants to be a pilot. And he's always playing he's downloaded all this stuff on my phone about piloting and the extent to which he reads. I think I'm the dyslexic one in this house. I tell you for free. I don't get some of the things he does. It's way outside my pay grade. Now he's learning on nuclear physics. That's his new appeal. I don't get it. I don't know anything about nuclear physics. But that's what he loves now. It was pilot, now it's nuclear physics. We're carrying on. So yeah, let's just allow them, give them the space as parents, and let's stop comparing our children to other children and just focus on this one that needs our help. Then yeah, it will work. It works. It really works.
Wow, let's just stop comparing. And I think comparison really is a huge killer when it comes to this. Comparing them to their other siblings, comparing them to your friends' children, comparing them to the children in the school. These things kill us. Why are you not like your sisters? Why are you not like your friends? Why are you not performing in the school? They kill them. They kill their self confidence. And I know it did harm to me. And so that's why these conversations are very important because then if you're a teacher, you know what is going on in the home. And also, if you're a parent, then you know both ways. What do you do as a parent if you find yourself in a situation like that? How do you navigate through? And so, this is Dyslexia Global Conversation, and I'm hanging out with three beautiful parents who are raising superstars in their home. I call them superstars because for me, I believe that every child is a star. And it depends on how we raise them and support them, regardless of their learning profile, regardless of challenges. Then you would decide whether your child is going to be that superstar or you're really going to kill the star that God made your child to be. So, Agnes, let's come to you. What do you have to say to our parents?
It's very challenging going last after, Aqua and Dorcas. I would first of all repeat everything that they said. And to add to it, so for me, I think there's one about, again, empowering myself, just like Aqua said, because I can only advocate based on as much as I know, and if I don't know, then how can I advocate for my child? I think number two, for me, we do use the term dyslexia in the house, but we use it as in like you have an eye or you have a leg, you have dyslexia. Like it is not anything that is different. It's not like a dirty word whatsoever. In fact, there's a few times where we've used the term. So my daughter is preparing for in the UK we have something called 11 plus, which is for grammar schools, and my daughter is preparing, and she just had her exams, and a few of the parents, when she was in the library, she was doing the mock tests and she was getting 100%, and so the parents were saying, this one, you don't need to say you're dyslexic because look how smart. And I said, no, she's dyslexic and she's smart. They're not one or the other, because she's getting 100% on her mock tests, and she's excelling and she's so good at math. It doesn't mean she's not dyslexic, because I really want to just change the way we look at that word dyslexia. Just like nobody will laugh at you for having your hand, or, I know before, I don't know if it's changed too much, but you couldn't ever use your left hand for anything, but we know we have left-handed people. And so for me, that's dyslexia. So I think it's also, as parents, once we know that our children have dyslexia, I think there is a part, if possible, that we can educate the people that are around our children, because as you said, children can be very mean, but also so can adults. And we want to make sure that our children are in a safe space. Our children are not always with us. In fact, in the morning when we send them off to school and when they come back home from school is a short time. But the majority of their time is in education. And if they go to any other extra clubs or activities or church, they're interacting with other people. So another thing I would say is about being proud of who your child is, and speaking up and out about, this is my child. My child is a brilliant child. My child has dyslexia. My child, so that they don't feel that it's a dirty shame. I don't want people to look at my daughter and think, oh, she has dyslexia and oh my goodness, but she can also do this. No, she can do this, and dyslexia is also a part of her. Another thing I think is really important is also for parents to learn how your children learn. So I have people that work in my organization who are brilliant, went to some of the top universities here in the UK. They're dyslexic, and their dyslexia works within numbers. So it's numbers that confuse them, not actually reading. For somebody else, it's reading that confuses them and not numbers. For somebody else, reading and writing is okay, but they cannot translate it when they're writing down the exams, right? And when you understand how your child learns, which is a journey, again, this is where we might have to use YouTube and start digging in so that we can look at the themes. Then we can understand, okay, so it's not dyslexia that now they can't do anything. Yeah. And even still, if your child may be reading, as I said with my daughter, she was at a lower grade in her reading level. But just 6 weeks holiday, she went back to school and they couldn't recognize the child because I had found out what her interest was. So I think it's very important to understand that just because your child has dyslexia, we as parents need to find out what their gift is so that we can continue to activate it. So our children, can we talk about nuclear? I couldn't even get the last word, but it sounded very, very posh, right? But that's because you've empowered your son so much. And I know, because it sounds like my daughter. When our dyslexic children, they're very obsessive in a great way. when we have given them that confidence and we've empowered them, you can't actually stop that floodgate all of a sudden, because they have a very, I don't want to say tunnel vision because they can think about other things, but they have a very kind of obsessive vision. So if it's history, they don't want to just know about the little part of history. They will go so deep into it that you'll be like, oh, why did we talk about this topic in the car? Because now they're even testing me, before they move on. So yeah, I just think it's how do your child learn and activate that. My daughter, for example, she works better in smaller groups. She works better when she's at the front of the class. She also works better when she goes into the class already knowing a bit about that subject. So now she can do that by herself. But for example, when she was younger, and I'm like this as well, by the way, even though I'm not dyslexic, she was slower to get it. And so what ends up happening, and happening for a lot of children, is that if you have your syllabus, maybe they're saying 2 weeks we're going to work on times tables, another 2 weeks we're going to learn on fractions, another 2 weeks we're going to learn on this. What ends up happening is that as you're getting to the end of the 2 weeks, that is when she's getting it. But now you've moved on to the next subject. So it's not, so now she, and I'm not saying she now, this is my daughter, she or he may be sitting there thinking, oh my goodness, I'm not smart enough. The school is, or the teachers are now saying that they're not, your child is not smart, or they're slow, or even if they're not saying it, by their actions, you can tell that that's how they think of your child. But it's just that your child maybe needed 3 weeks to get to know that, or 4 weeks. So another thing that I would say is that when you understand how your child works, then you can go to the school and say, okay, you know what is your year syllabus that you're kind of working on, and having that idea. So by the time your child is going into the class, if you know it takes them 2 weeks, when they come home, they can already practice. And my daughter always loves it when she goes into the classroom and she already knows a bit about it. Her hand is number one up, to the point where, the teachers, don't even want to go to her anymore, because she becomes obsessive, and she can now start, it makes it an equal level playing field for when she's now sitting amongst her peers. So I think it's just really important understanding how your child learns, but also for the teachers. Some of for the education system, my daughter, when I would go to school and I would ask them how she's doing, they would say, "Oh, your daughter's fine, she's doing well." But when I was reading with her, I wasn't seeing she was doing well. And what I realized is that what they understood as doing well is she wasn't being disruptive in the class. She's sitting there being calm and quiet. She's not one of the ones that are misbehaving. So for me, I don't see that as being fair, because if you're measuring my child against she's not being disruptive, she can end up leaving school not being able to read or write, because she's not the one that is causing the problems. So it's also important, I think, for the education system, or educational institutions, whether you're in UK, whether you're in Ghana, wherever you are, to also understand that children learn differently. And if they see a child that is maybe falling behind in that way, and as I think it was you, Dorcas, that was saying that sometimes you don't even know that your child has dyslexia. So where do you even start? Because you have to start before that level. Pulling the parents aside and saying, oh, okay, you know what, your child, instead of your child is stupid or foolish, the kind of words they may be saying when we're in Ghana, actually, maybe this is the curriculum that we're going to be learning on for the term. Do you want to try some of this at home beforehand? Do you know what I mean? So that they can have an idea of what's going on. And they might not be able to give you all the finite details, but just enough to be able to empower. So when your child goes into the class, they're not being bamboozled by something, because they learn at a different pace to others. A different pace doesn't mean that they can't get it. So that's my part.
I love it. A different pace doesn't mean they can't learn. And it's so true. When you take your time to teach us, when you practice or apply the multi-sensory structured learning approach, definitely you're going to discover how the child learn. You, the teacher, and you, the parents at home as well. And it looks like one thing that run among the three of you is you are teaching your children at home, and that is the beauty. It looks like a lot of the people that I have seen in the dyslexia community, especially parents, they always jump before the school jump. They are the ones to step, and it goes with what Epia said. Nobody will love your child more than you. And it is when you are informed about what is this with your child, that is where you are able to go into the school and talk, and they get it when they know that, oh my goodness, it looks like the parents really have researched, and they know, they have the information, and they know exactly what the demand they should make for their children. It makes it beautiful, because I've seen schools, and I think Dorcas, in your case, she was the one who went and kind of started telling the school about the child's
Yes.
situation. And there is also a parent online, which is Sabina. She also went and educated the school about the child's situation. And then the school started making accommodations for the child. Now, there is something here, especially in Ghana, there is a lot of myth about dyslexia. People think, yes, the child is lazy, there's stigmatization, there is the thing of a spiritual. People are thinking it's health
So,
related to.
Rosalie, can I come in, please?
All right.
So, before you continue, Madam was doing her homework, and she just came to show this to me.
Okay.
Living cells. Me, I can't draw this.
we
If I don't know if that, she
can.
just drew this living cells. I mean, how can you just draw
Okay.
this so easily within a short period? And so that's her work she's done. I
Wow.
mean, this is what we are
Uh,
talking about. We
yes,
need to encourage them to do more of what they love doing. She
absolutely,
just came to show it to me. I said, "Oh, wow, there are so many
absolutely.
people who can read and write, but they can also do this."
They can do that. And I've
Yeah.
seen some of Abrina's work. Her work actually got featured in an Australian magazine. She draws very, very well. She plays the piano like somebody have actually sat and taught her. She sews, she makes bags, she makes clothes.
Yeah.
Nobody has
Mm-hmm.
taught her. Actually,
Can do headband.
she's avoiding for a professional to come in and teach her. She wants to use her own imagination. And I know Imara is on stages and doing so many things. She is our youngest ambassador now, and she's raising funds for the African Dyslexia Organization. And I was watching the girl making her video and talking, and I'm like, is
Yes.
this 10-year-old child? Like, look
Yeah.
at how she's so over
Yeah.
there.
And
And
no, I was going to say, yeah, so she's already raised £430 and she's trying to get to £1,200.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
and yeah, but I wanted to say about that the I think it's really important what you said about spirituality and about the myth. And kind of looking at what that is for our children. There is a lot of myths and there is a lot of, and I think, if I'm very honest, it comes out of ignorance. Okay, so we just need to start there. And so I think what you're doing in Ghana and throughout the whole of Africa, raising awareness about what dyslexia is really important. We need to understand that before we had the Western education, and I'm saying this in the UK and also within Africa, how did we used to communicate? We were drawing, we were doing the drums. Our communication was a different way. So you wouldn't have, for our children that were actually dyslexic in those days, they would have been the prime people because they would have been our illustrators. They would have been our communicators in different ways, right? So it's very important to understand that in each kind of society, we have different structures, and depending on whether you match up to that structure will determine whether you're intelligent based on that system, if that makes sense. And actually, traditionally, we were not operating in the way that this is the education in Ghana is British education that was imported. Right now, that's not to say whether it's good or bad. I've benefited from a British education from degree up to master's level. So I'm not saying that our education, and I'm throwing that all away, but it's very important to understand that even from our ancestors, dyslexia did not just come out now. ADHD did not just come out now, right? And so I think it's really important for all of us to all of us that feel confident enough to speak up and speak out about our children. In America and in the UK, we speak about our people who are dyslexic here. They're our ministers, right? They're leading our health industries. They are leading in our arts. They are leading Albert Einstein and other mathematicians dyslexic, right? So they're leading. And so I always ask myself, where are our African neurodiverse leaders? Because we know that if 40% of the billionaires and and people that are doing amazing things in the West are there, this doesn't discriminate. So I think it is really, really, really important within the African context. For us as parents, it starts with us. We need to be so proud of our children that it becomes contagious for anybody that is around us, right? That they now become addicted to our children. Even here, yes, people talk about dyslexia, but I'm still very much in an African uh, community, if that makes sense. And so even me saying that, oh, my child's dyslexic, sometimes people just kind of look at you. It's like, oh, you're saying that out loud. Yeah, of course I'm saying it out loud. It doesn't mean anything less of my child. So we as a parents of our brilliant children, we need to start having these conversations. We need to have conversations in our church, in our workplace. We need to not be ashamed of our children. We need to be proud of them. We need to celebrate our children openly, right? And we need to encourage them. And I feel by that helps to distill the myth. Myth and ignorance are able to thrive when we bury our children in secret. So you were given an example of one of your friends that doesn't want to say that, oh, my child is dyslexic, no matter what the cost is to that child. They don't want to say that. And so myths are allowed to be able to breed like a virus there, because you're keeping it as like a dirty secret. Our children are not dirty secrets. So I think let's start there. Let's start by promoting our children, by speaking up about dyslexia, by supporting the kind of work, Rosalind, that you're doing, wherever we can support, whether we can share knowledge. This is not just about dyslexic parents understanding dyslexia. This is about African communities understanding the resources within our children that are at their disposal within the community. And I think that's really, really important.
Absolutely, yes. You hinted on so many points, and my next question, and if okay, you have something to do with, to add to the misconception and the stigmatization, you can ask. But the question I'm directing to you is, what do you think in our education system here in Ghana and across Africa can do to support our dyslexic learners, and not just dyslexic learners alone, but learners with all related learning differences? What do you think our education system can do?
Sorry, is it to me?
Yes.
Oh, um, I think one, we really got to sharpen our awareness of it. Through my journey, I have come across teachers teaching my children who had learned about dyslexia in school and during their training. But somehow there's always a disconnect when they meet a child who's dyslexic. And we've really got to merge it, that what you've learned, this is it. And I'm telling you on authority, this, I have so many times had to be the first person to break it down to the teacher who is teaching them. And these are trained teachers. And I've had to break it down. I've had to explain to them. I've had to tell them my child's needs and how I need them to support their child. I might not be able to answer for the Ghana Education Service, or but at least on the global conversation on dyslexia, yes, I think we're doing an amazing job. But I think on the unit level, we need to start with the schools that where our children are, and within the community, like Agnes was saying, to be able to break down the myth, and actually explain to those responsible for our children that this is what we need you to do because we've learned it, and this is how we think you can support us. And also, we need to explain to them that we're doing this together. It's not just you, it's not just me. We really need to strengthen the partnerships within the community, or with, especially within the school system that our children are in. Strengthen the partnership to make sure that our children get the best, and also the teachers are able to support in the best way that they know how. um and I'll say that this carefully, that at every stage in my child's life, I've had to really suck up to the teachers. I'm the one sending teachers presents. I'm the one, making friends. I'm the one trying to, so how are the children? How are the, so if it takes them putting my child in front of the class next to the teacher so he can get, 10 more minutes, or more than the other children, so be it. But I have to strengthen the partnership to also make the child's journey in school easy. And I also need the school community to know that I'm watching, and I'm here, and we're going to do this together, come hell or high water. So that's really has been how my journey, I think, has been smooth with my child. I always make sure that in any new school that we go, I announce it very, very early on. My child has this disability, from the principal all the way to the teacher that he's working with, and with every teacher that he relates to. This is my child's needs. This is how, and for every year that he enters, every new year, I have a first conversation with the teacher. I don't know if you're aware, but my child has this. This is how he studies better. So you can't. It's not the same level. So you may have to do things differently, and it's helped. And it's helped. You can't go in arrogant, sashaying and expecting that the teacher will fix it. No, the teachers, half of them don't know what they're doing, at
Mm.
least when it comes to children with special needs. So if we've been blessed to understand what our children are going through, I think we need to hold their hand to help them know how to work with our children better. And like you said, all other children within the spectrum and all other learning disabilities, we need to hold the teacher's hand and the school's hand to make it easier for the children.
Can I
Beautiful,
can I just
beautiful.
add something there? Because I was speaking to a teacher
Sure.
the other day, and I was speaking about special educational needs, and I was speaking about my daughter and some other things, and she said something that kind of took me aback, but I think it'd also be good in the Ghanaian context. And she said, "Look, in our school, we don't have special educational needs department because we train all of our teachers to be special educational needs teachers. So SEND is not like one aspect. For us, we think good SEND is every single teacher needs to be equipped with the ability and with the knowledge and the know-how on SEND. And it kind of took me aback. And then when I thought about it, it made sense, because a lot of children, you're not necessarily going to be diagnosed at home. Sometimes the parents themselves do not know, and so forth. So if you're waiting for a special department to be able to come in, you're doing a disservice to a lot of children. So I think another kind of another plea that I would say, just to add, Rosalind, to your question about what needs to happen within the Ghanaian education system, is that actually all teachers need to be trained on SEND, and not just in a theoretical part that they tick, okay, I know what SEND means and they can recite it, but also having the practical know-how on like when you have the theory and you have the practical, actually part of that being that they've had practical experience working with children with additional needs.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And at this response the teacher gave to you really, really sets the tone. And I hope schools are listening, head of schools and directors of schools. I see some of you here. I hope you're listening and you make that a priority to train your teachers. And I brought up an article last week, which is almost like what you're saying. I said that we need to train all teachers from kindergarten to JHS in Ghana about dyslexia and related learning differences. Because once we are able to train all of them, you make it compulsory. I mean, New York is doing it. If you're a teacher in New York now, it is compulsory. You need to take training on dyslexia. It is not saying that all teachers should become specialized teachers or SIN experts, but it's just to inform. And through that, you get the people who are really passionate and have the time that are ready to support our children who need the little extra push over there. Please, I would like to remind you all this is Dyslexia Global Conversation, and we are hanging out with parents who have children with dyslexia and we are raising them to become champions. Watch out for these kids in the next 10, 15 years because trust me, they are taking over the world. Please send in your questions. I see some questions in it. We'll come to the questions in a few minutes. Send in your questions, send in your comments, and please make this conversation an interesting one. Dorcas, I'm interested to know when you diagnosed Abrina as dyslexic, did you share with your family? Did you share with your friends? And how did they receive it? Did you get some kind of discomforts from them, or how was the situation?
So first of all, I had to go to her school. So before we went to the hospital, there was an issue in the school that made her discouraged her. She didn't want to go to school again because she couldn't read or write. So there was this word music that she couldn't spell and wanted to refer. So whilst doing that, teacher caught her and was like, "Why? What do you want? Why are you using your textbook?" He said, "Oh, I'm not copying. I just want to remember. I can't remember the word music. I can't spell it. So how do I go? Just want to see if I can get the word so I can complete my sentence." And then the teacher started shouting on her, "Hey, this was just music. You can't spell." The whole class, they started laughing at her. She came home, she cried, she cried. "Mommy, why is this happening to me?" So when we went to the neurologist or for the assessment, they recommended we move her to a smaller class size school. So when I really suffered before I got such a school. And then I chose the school she is now because the administrator knew about dyslexia. I went to a school and the woman told me, if your daughter has issues with reading and writing, how can she manage with the rest of the subjects? So I also got discouraged. I was like, wow, well, I moved and then I sent her to where she is now. I told the administrator, I told the proprietress. So when they admitted her, they also accepted her and then vowed to help her. They promised to help her. The teachers are all aware of her condition. And trust me, even though they don't they don't they don't teach special needs or special needs children there, but they have time for her. They're about 8 or 9 in the class. They get they give her much attention, which I think is very important. And then at a point, in fact, when she got to her class, she told her classmates, "Please, I am dyslexic," because in their school every morning 7:30 there's read an hour. It is compulsory, so she has to let them know that this is my condition. I have problem with reading and writing. So if you call me and I will read, but if I'm not able to mention some words, please don't laugh at me. She told her classmates, which I think was a good move. It means she herself has accepted her condition, and no matter what, she wouldn't let that discourage her. She herself is doing all she can. And trust me, sometimes she writes exams and she will score 70%, 80%, sometimes 90%. And we are like, hey, so a teacher comes and says, "Hey, are you sure she's dyslexic?" And sometimes they allow her to do oral examination, you know. Sometimes they allow her to do that. And sometimes too, they will allow a teacher to stand by her. If she's reading and she's finding it difficult, they will ask her, "What do you want to write?" She'll say it. Okay. Would you be able to spell all the words? The ones she can't, they will assist her. So they are trying their best to support her in their own way, even though they are not teachers who has been trained on how to handle dyslexics. So I think my parents too are aware. They also encourage her. They help. My dad is also good. Maybe when there's homework and I'm not around and I take them there, he's able to support them. He keeps encouraging me myself. He also encourages my daughter. Yesterday at church, she was asked to read the Bible in front of everybody. And a friend of mine was like, hey, can she read it? Are you sure she can do it? I said, oh, relax. She can do it. So, but I read it with her once. So when she got there, the thing we read this thing once or twice. When she got there was a particular word she couldn't mention. And I know that this is dyslexic for you. She would know the thing, but it will get to a point she would forget something. She would really forget something. So, like, everybody has accepted her condition, and we are fine. We are fine. And I'm not shy. My daughter is dyslexic, so when we move out, I'll let her isolate herself. She used to coil herself, but I think now she's getting better. She goes all out. She would follow friends. She will go when they are reading. She will go, and then her sister too is there. Sometimes she will call her younger brother. I think about 7 years, 7 year difference. Me, spell this word for me, and he would do it. Or the one right after her, Annie, spell this word for me. I'm struggling with it, and they are all ready and willing to
You
support
know,
her when she
I'm laughing
realizes.
because she sounds like she'll be the first female president of of Ghana. You see how she's using the leadership skills, yeah, to be able to
Yes,
assemble her team, to
mm,
be able to do what she needs to do. I love it. I love it.
yes, and I'm happy because it's not like she's feeling she doesn't feel shy anymore. For her to call her younger brother, spell this for me. I want to write this word. How do you write this? Sometimes even her own name, she misses the letters. She
Yeah,
forgets about the way her name is spelled. So, and this is not her fault.
it's not.
Sometimes you write it correctly. The
Yeah,
next moment you ask her to write it again, it's a different thing altogether.
yeah, I
So
know.
the support is there from all angles, and Daddy too is there, always ready to support her in
Mhm.
Wow.
any form. Yeah, we are doing
Wow.
our best.
Thank you for sharing. And the beauty of what you said is the awareness, even in the home, where the sibling understands. So
Yeah.
you call Annie and you say, Annie, please, can you spell this word for me? And I call on people all the time. I'm like, what is this word? I'm trying to spell this some word. They will spell, and I'm like, this word, I know it. But then at the moment when I was trying to spell, it had vanished from my mind. And that's how the brain works. But in all this conversation, there is one thing that is standing out, and it is building the confidence of the child. Building that confidence, because the confidence can get them to do so many things. And so, please, if you are listening to us and you are an educator, we need your support. Show love, show kindness, help us to build our kiddos, their confidence. They are not dumb, they are not stupid. Let's refrain from using this. Let's refrain from beating them up, because the beating will not get anywhere. Also, repetition in class. I mean, if you repeat somebody, head of schools that are listening, if you repeat the child who is not doing well, do you think if you repeat me 3 years in the same class, I will get whatever you are teaching me?
Mm-mm.
And so, please, let's look at all these things so that we are able to support our kids. Now, we'll go into our chat and answer some questions. I still have some few questions for you, but we'll wrap up very soon because we will not keep too long here today. But somebody is asking this question. Are there centers, and I need to show this, are there centers or avenues in Ghana where we can refer suspected dyslexic children? Please share. This question I have it as well, but I wanted somebody to bring it and she brought it up. So I want to know this. Agnes may not know because she lives in the UK, but Ekia and Dorcas, share with us when you started seeing this signs, symptoms of dyslexia in your kids. How did you find where? How did you know where to go? Which centers did you go? How much did it even cost you to get the assessment done and get the report to take to the school? What was your experience? And okay, you can go then, Dorcas.
Um, so we we didn't find any center. I think when we started our journey, well, there was no center. I know there was a center in Achimota that I tried to reach out to. So this must have been around 2014 or so. But I met, still Googling and researching, then I met Joy, who had started a dyslexic foundation or organization, but she had left for the UK and was doing her PhD, I believe. So she was the only person, at least in 2014, who I could speak to. And thank God for WhatsApp. So she was the one who held my hand and gave me and showed me the ropes on what to do, how to do, what resources I could find. And I just jumped on it because there was nothing for me in 2013, 2014 when we started our journey. And um, how did we?
Okay, I'm not
Yes,
stopping you. I'm not stopping you. But even before you searched for Joy, and by the way, for listeners, Joy is Mrs. Joy Thomas of Dyslexia Ghana. She's been supporting our kids with assessment
yeah,
and intervention for like 20 years now in Ghana. And the Africa Dyslexia Organization, we have a great partnership with her. And so that is one of the places I will recommend right now if you're looking for place to go. It is also quite affordable. Her services are affordable. But before you search for Joy, what even prompts you that this might be dyslexia?
thank God for Google. I think for me, it was Googling flipping letters. And I remember so well, that's how it started. I didn't know anything about dyslexia. I just Googled flipping letters and flipping numbers. And then I got everything I could find on dyslexia. And that's how I started. That was the first time I heard about the word. I think maybe I may have heard it used in a negative way. Oh, you're probably dyslexic, I think that's as far as I'd heard dyslexia. But understanding what the issues were, what, how, when, I didn't know anything about it. So for me, it was just Google. Google was my friend. I read everything I could. And then through the research, where can I find that's how come I found Joy. And then so I was using all the resources I could find online to teach him. Is it the auto? I use the auto, there's a program, auto,
Is
I
it the
remember.
all-time Gillingham?
Yes. Oh, yes, 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 yes. That. So I started with that, by myself, learning it and understanding it and using it. It was very difficult. It was very stressful because I didn't know what to do, where to start. And miraculously, my friend had an interview in multi kids. So I didn't know anything about multi kids. I didn't know where. I mean, I was very, very frustrated. So miraculously, she had gone for an interview at MultiKit, and she was for the position of an HR. And it was a Friday, I remember very well. And after the interview, she calls me and said, Ikuya, I found the solution to our child's problem. I've interviewed in a school, which I think, because, I shared the problem. This is what I'm dealing with, to answer the question. My family knew about it, my friends knew about it, because it was every time my son would go into groups, he would cower. Every time they had, kids were having intellectual conversations and interesting conversations, and he would shut. So I would put it out there. He has his struggles. He has dyslexia. He struggles to read. I mean, people would always make a joke. Oh, when it comes to maths, then you're suddenly very sleepy. Um, yeah. So when Efia found got the job, and in fact, she hadn't even got the job. She had gone for the interview and asked me to just come immediately. So that's when I first I'm also hearing about multi kids, and on Tuesday. So I made the appointment on Monday, and on Tuesday, thankfully, we went for an interview, and he started within that week. And when we got to the school, so my son had an initial assessment of his needs, and this was before the big assessment to be done. And when we first entered the school, and he ran around, he played, he came to me and said, "Mommy, for the first time, I feel normal. This is going to be my happy place. And it was like night and day from there, because he was with other kids who had he had met other kids who had dyslexia, other kids with other learning disabilities. He was learning to use sign language. It was very All the kids learned sign language, and all sorts of disability was very, very, very normal for them. So he was happy, and I could see his confidence, coming up. He was getting better, because they taught him at his pace, and using his challenges, and that's how it changed from there. But no, back to the question, no, there aren't a lot of centers, there aren't a lot of places that you can go. I don't know of any. I never used any, and this is really one of the big challenges. So, and thankfully we could afford to do multi-kids, but for the many who can't afford it, my worry is, what are their choices, what are their options, what are their chances? So it's really a disservice, to us as Ghana, if we don't give these children a chance. Whatever needs to be done to ensure that Ghana Education has the centers for these kids to have a happy place, to be able to excel. We need to push it and get that done.
I agree with you. Absolutely. There aren't many places that you could seek for support and all that in Ghana. And I feel like these things are very basic to do, Have teachers trained. Trained all teachers. Some
Yeah.
teachers will come out and they will be reading specialists out of those teachers that you are training on the introductory of dyslexia and related learning disabilities. How much will it cost to set up assessment centers in all the 16 regions? How much will it cost? As a country like Ghana, very few dollars will do this, but we are not doing. Even the only one that we have, which is the National Assessment Center, what's the condition of it? And this is the places where people can be able to go without spending so much. Because if you want to go to the private way, it costs. Some people are doing assessments as high as $800,000. How many people can afford that? Even if it's $100, how many people can afford? But we as a country, we have the opportunity where we can make it more like accessible to people by establishing these centers. And I'm hoping somebody is listening and can. I have done this already. I have recommended it to the ministry and GES about it. I've recommended all these things have already been tabled down, and I hope it is one day going to be taken on to do. Let's go
Sorry,
to
can I
doctors.
just going to add
Just
that?
Rosalind, one quick one. Sorry, it's I think you said $800,000. No, $800. So
$800,
yes.
yes, 800 to $1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to add that I think it's really important as well that we get the message that between 1 in 5 and 1 in 10 people have dyslexia. And I think, until we start getting that message out there in the mainstream, so that everybody understands that somebody, whether they're diagnosed or they're not diagnosed, they have dyslexia, then there will start to be a political will, and then that's when the money will then come. But I think right now, people, because it's so hidden, and even I'm saying this even from the stance of the UK, the centers you're talking about, they don't exist here, my dear. Like the government are meant to do certain things, and we're here fighting for, I have a research that is coming out, and part of our recommendations are to have some of these centers. So it is a global issue, I will add, but it's getting the issue out there, because on the flip side, as I said, 40% of billionaires are like dyslexic, but equally on the flip side, something like 50% plus are prisoners. Do you understand? So it's two sides of the coin here. Those that, when we can activate their gifts, they excel at the highest levels. But when we cannot activate our gifts, their gifts, sorry, then we get a lot of other issues. We get, because these children are very intelligent in their heads, and they can do stuff, but ends up going into areas that we don't want. So it becomes a societal problem and a societal challenge. So let's start getting that message out there that, between 1 in 5, 1 in 10 people have dyslexia. This is not an arbitrary I don't want to call it problem, because I don't see dyslexia as a problem in honesty, but it's not something that just happens to a few people in the corner. So therefore we shouldn't be funding. Let's have that conversation.
I agree with you absolutely, and I have this saying, and I think I will put it out there. I ask this question: ask yourself, in how many classrooms, if we put 100 classrooms full of students, would you enter that classroom and see someone with uh, physical challenge, like for example, visual impairment or deafness? The probability that you would not find in every classroom is high. However, you will find in every classroom that child who is not performing, that child who cannot read, regardless of the school they are going, whether they go to the GIS or the Christian High or the International Community School or La Baleshi Presby School or wherever in UK, US, you would find these children who are struggling. And so, what I'm saying to what Agnes is saying is that 1 in 5 is likely to be dyslexic. That means if you have 25 students, there is probability that 5 of them are struggling. Are we going to watch for them to, for us to sideline them and they lose out on whatever they can contribute? Or we're going to help them to thrive so that in the next 20 years, 30 years, 15 years to come, we're going to see the Ochiame Kwames, the Archbishop Duncan Williams, the Nana Ankwa and Son, the likes of Rosalind, Albert Einstein, Richard Branson. Are we going to support them? We do not want any child to go through what I went through, or what Ochiame Kwame went through, or what the Archbishop went through, or what some of these great people who are dyslexic went through, because it took us a lot of hard work to make it here. But ask yourself, how many of us lost hope on life and they are wasting somewhere? How many of us? I'm sure they are more than the people who have made it. And that is what we are saying, that we need the support, we need the centers, the resources, the skills of our personnel to support our kids. This is still the Dyslexia Global Conversation, and we are addressing the question, are there centers or avenues in Ghana where we can refer suspected children with dyslexia? And we have our panel who have given us their input, but I want to hear from Dorcas. Dorcas, how did you get your support? How did you even get to know about it? And what center did you visit? How was it for you? How much did it cost you even?
We see a neurologist. So my husband knows a friend at Pantan Hospital. So she also recommended Mission Hospital at Circle, Mission Hospital. So that was where she did her assessments, and it cost us $100 per session. That was about 4 years ago. 4 years ago, it was $100 per session, and we went about 5 times before we had the results. Yes, so it wasn't easy, but because we were determined to find solution or see what we can do to support her, to help her, we had to go all out to do that for her. So I will also suggest or recommend or plead with the authorities to please work on the national one, where people can access the place easily. They can walk in. The payment shouldn't be as high that would restrict people from going there. They should try and work on it for us so that as many as would want to send their children there they should be able to go there without any challenges. And then one other thing I would like to talk about, I don't know if it's already there, but I'm saying this because Abriana will be writing her BZ soon. She's in grade 8. And is there any facility or what anything there to support these dyslexics when they are writing their exams? Is there any arrangements available so children who are dyslexics can also write their exams without any fear?
Thank you so much for sharing. Yes, to answer your question, yes, there are um, accommodations available through GES. And you see, that's where the question comes. There are these accommodations that GES has in place for students who are dyslexic, but it's not known to the public.
Mhm.
You get this?
Yes.
For example, we have inclusive education policy since 2016, but then I meet a number of teachers and I ask them, do you know about the inclusive? Have you read it? And they're like, I don't know. Do we have a policy like that? And so if the teacher who is teaching says that I don't know, do we have a policy like that? Then the accommodations and the
Very
resources
serious.
you cannot access it, but there is. And so just get in touch. And I think you've met Alex before. He was part of the Dyslexia Stakeholders Forum. He also mentioned it that day. And I could put you in touch with him and we can look at. Don't wait. When she's
Okay.
writing these, he says next year. Do
Next
not
year.
wait for next year. You need to start
Okay.
finding the support that she will need from now. Because when it gets to that time, you know, WAEC is very busy and
Yeah.
submitting all documentation becomes very stressful. And so the accommodations are there. We just have to make sure the public are aware and then the teachers also understand and know where to assess them. That's why some of these conversations, I wish there's like many people on there, but it will shock you. There are so many teachers that we send this to, but they are not here. And they are saying so
You've gone on
parents
to mute. Yeah.
parents who have dyslexic children who are not here. And so we need to really push if we need some of these supports for our kids. Agnes, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to say something just so that Dorcas also understands what support could look like. So in the UK, what happens is that you're meant to go to and it has to come from an educational psychologist, or I can't remember two other people, but let's say an educational psychologist. They spend 2 hours assessing your child to find out, their strengths. We were talking about dyslexia; it's different for each child. And so, for example, if your child's strength is not reading, for example, then they might have somebody in every exam that will read the questions to them and they will write it. If, for example, your child is good at reading, but it's the writing that they struggle with, yeah, they will then in that exam have a scribe for them. So they will be able to recite the information and somebody they'll go in, they will not have their exam in the same hall as everybody else. They will have a dedicated quiet room for them and they will write down exactly what the child has said, right? In yeah, verbally. Some children need both. They will have both somebody to read and then somebody to write. That makes sense. So it's really important. As I said, I don't know the Ghanaian landscape, but if I know that Ghana usually is very similar to the UK educational system in terms of how we follow things. And if there is an inclusive policy, either A, find out what that is so that you know what it could look like. And then B, if they are failing the children or you see that there's some gaps, then you can advocate because the main thing with education, I don't know what the Disability Act is in Ghana. So apologies here if it's completely different. But the main thing is that you're not meant to discriminate against someone based on their disability, X, Y, and Z. So in that case, you're meant to then put in provisions to ensure that there's equality or equity in that place. If your child cannot read, you can't go and then put them in an exam to now go and read the questions when you know that they have a disability from a registered. That's why I said educational psychologist. I don't know if it's a neurologist in Ghana, but it has to be from an official with a number with a stamp, and then they will allow you to go through.
Absolutely. Even with over here, when it, the thing is when it comes to a year, for them to even give you that support, if your child, you need to still go to, even though Dorcas, you have the assessment for mission, you still will need to go to the National Assessment Center and get
Okay.
theirs and attach to it. before they can then support, because that's to them that's what they recognize. I'm not
Okay.
saying the others are not, they are, because then you're able to start with the school. But when it comes to a year, they need the GES stamp on it, because that's GES center. But
Okay.
you can we can talk about this, and I'll share more with you as well.
Okay.
We have Madam Lucy, who is also saying that Cambridge also have some accommodation. So those doing Cambridge, I know, and of course the IB as well. I know that they also have some accommodation for our dyslexic learners. So we are almost here, and we are about wrapping up. But there is a question here that will be here to address. The person says, please, I would like Madam Mefiasapon to repeat the alternative to Jolly Phonics she mentioned. Thank you.
So we learned Jollyphonics somehow didn't work for my child. And I was informed very clearly that for dyslexic, Jollyphonics wasn't. We use sounds right. So if you can just do a little bit of research on it, it's called sounds right. So typically words like here, bear. How do you explain flight? The word FLIGHT to a child? By saying it and by spelling it, it would never make sense. For the longest time, my son spelled because BEKOS, and it wasn't wrong. It's correct. BEKOS is because. So how do you explain to a child that because it's not BEKOS, but it's BCA? So which sounds right. It's they use more of the sound of the word as opposed to just putting the letters together. So and for us, it made such a huge difference to how he learned and how to spell. So check out Sounds Right. I think it's a free app if you can do sounds, if you can find Sounds Right. And also I used um um TTRS, um reading, spelling. Is it TTRS?
Yes.
TTRS. Type, touch, read, and spell. Yes. It's an app called Type, Touch, Read, and Spell, TTRS. So it's a mix of visualizing and also hearing the vision and audible of words, and by using their fingers to type and seeing and hearing, somehow they connect better, and it makes the spelling a lot more fluent. So these are easy ones you can try. I think it's probably like $10 a month or something. You can just sign up for it and get them to do it, because so long as they keep reading the words, seeing the words, hearing it, and seeing the letters, they typing it, or it makes their typing faster. So of course, they can't write, but my son can't really write fast. So typing was a way to do it. So by doing it, he learns how to type, he learns how to read, he learns how to spell. So you can also try that as well, TTRS. It is such a game changer.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yes, and I know that like Dyslexia Ghana use TTRS as well, or Gillingham Davis. These are all programs out there. Nessie also is a good one out there that you could explore. And I've put in the TTRS via link in the chat, so you can find it over there. Someone is asking on LinkedIn here that why this conversation is not open to teachers, and she thinks that all teachers needs to be around. I think the LinkedIn comments are not here. She's watching all the way from Nigeria. Well, we did share a lot. We did inform. People choose to be where they want to be, and so we as Africa Dyslexia Organization and my fantastic parents here, I think we've done our parts. What you can do to us, since you think this is a great conversation, all of you, please send the link to your children, their school, to the teachers, to the head of schools. If you are a head of school over here, please, if you like, I see Madam Lucy here, and I'm asking, is all her teachers here? because she is a principal, and I'm surprised she's staying on since we started till now. And if your teachers are not here, then Madam Lucy, please share the link with them and ask them to watch and come and tell you the last word we said in the video. That you will know that they have watched the video. So the last question to all of you, so that I could let you go because my questions are so many, but we are running out of time. Is what are your hopes and aspirations for your child's future? And how do you envision them thriving with dyslexia? Dorcas, you can go, Agnes can go next, and then Akia will come. And then our final will be all your advice to both educators and parents. So, Dorcas, what are your hopes that you're hoping Abrina's future will be and thriving with dyslexia?
Oh, so we can't say that the dyslexia should vanish, and but we are hoping that um, she will still sail through. By God's grace, she has never been repeated. She always gets the average marks or sometimes above average. So we are hoping that things will get better. She would be able to go through all her educational system, the basics education, the senior high, and then the tertiary. And then I also hope that whatever is on her heart, whatever she wants to do, whatever she wants to achieve in life, I pray and hope that she'll be able to achieve that. And with the little support we can, support from family and friends, my younger brother is in Germany and her wife is also always researching about dyslexia. What can we do to support now? What can we do? Sometimes you'll be there and she'll be sharing a link. Go and read this article. Go and do this. Go and do that. So, and if we do that, I see much improvement. Now the reading is better. At first, it was terrible. She wouldn't want to read at all. But now she's able to read. She'll be able to read about 3 or 4 lines. Then you see that she'll struggle with one word. If we are able to correct her, she would continue. The reading is getting better, and we thank God so much for that. So, for me, all I pray for is God would give her the strength. We also have to encourage her, push her to do what she loves to do, the painting, the playing of the piano, read, and she can dance as well. I don't know what I can do about that. She loves dancing. When she's tired, she'll just go and play music and dance her she say she will dance and dance, she will sweat. I don't know, maybe that also calms her down. So there are so many good things that she can do. We pray and hope that God will help her and then see her through her education. She would come out successfully and she would also be able to impact the lives of other people. I pray God will use her to teach some other children who are not able to who are not getting the support she is getting now. So we are praying and hoping that she'll be someone better in future, a responsible child, a responsible um, grown up when she grows up, responsible parents. We have so much hope that things will get better in future for her. Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I wish Abrina all the best. I have no doubt she's going to be amazing and great and contributing to this beautiful world that we have. And so, Agnes, your turn.
Okay. Well, I have 3 children. I have a daughter who's my firstborn, and I have 2 sons. And my hope for my daughter is the same for all my children. I believe I'm a vessel for my kids to help them to activate their gifts so that when they go into adulthood, they can be productive members of society and for themselves. And so, yeah, my hope for my children, I would say, and I keep saying that because dyslexia for me in my home is another tool in my child's toolbox, right? They think in a different way. Um, and so that's a different tool that they have. Okay, they might not have the spanner in there. They have what's it called, the drill, um, and so because that's how I see it, my hope then is for her to be able to be in a place where the drill is needed, because sometimes we are, as our children, we, as parents and society, we get frustrated because we are giving our child a hammer, not knowing they need a paintbrush. And then we're getting upset that they're using the hammer. They're meant to be an artist. And so that only happens when our children are in places that are not that are not for them to shine. You know, Rosalind, I like to use you as an example. As I said, you're an amazing cook. That's what you do. Imagine now we keep you in the math laboratory all the time, and then we're saying that you are not smart. So my prayer for my daughter is God has given her the gifts that she has for a reason. Now we need to find out where that gift is meant to be activated. And then my job now is to support her into being in that place so that she can activate her gift in the place that she needs to be activated so that she can shine like the star that she is. And that is my prayer for my child, dyslexic or not dyslexic, you know. And my prayer also then for wider society is that dyslexia in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, whatever that may be, doesn't become, one of those words. The reason why we see it in the way that it is because society hasn't cottoned on. What we know now, I don't know how much you're talking about technology in Ghana, but right now we're going for a massive technological revolution. We have AI and all these different things coming on. What that means is the next generation of children that are going to be change makers are not going to be those that can recite. We've got ChatGPT for that. We have Google and all these AI for that. In the old days, yes, that was the important thing. Can you remember all this information? Can you regurgitate it? That was deemed as excellence. We don't have that anymore. So what I see in the UK, which makes me hopeful, and I pray that this is coming to Ghana as well, is that employers are actively looking for neurodiverse children because they have machines now to do all of that reciting. What they don't have is the creative person who can now come in and take that knowledge to the other level. So neurodiversity is something that is being pushed here. You will not believe that they have job applications and they say ADHD. Typically we're looking for neurodiversity and ADHD. They're looking for dyslexic thinkers. They're looking for that now. So I want my daughter to be primed into that position, to be able to take her rightful spot on the throne of where she should be and go on and be a trailblazer.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And yes, it's getting there. I had an organization who actually called me to ask me what is going on. Like they've gone on their website and reading and how can their workplace become inclusive and how do they even recognize such children. And I thought it was beautiful because in somewhere on our website we want to tackle adults with dyslexia. And so what we stated there kind of sounded well to them and they want to find ways. And I was like, well, the first thing is, do you have some of the children who are shying away from writing reports in your workplace? They say, yeah, we have some people like that. And I said, okay, then we need to have a conversation. And so it will definitely come here. We at the receiving end here. I think we always get the news at the letter parts.
Yeah.
But then as long as Africa Dyslexia Organization is here and the work we're doing, this will get to them than all the other issues that they cut off plates.
But can I just say for parents then that are on the call, we said earlier on it's about research and about armoring ourselves. If you now know that globally in the West and so forth, neurodiversity is the next big thing. They're looking for neurodiverse children and your children are young. You need to be priming them for that spot because we know what is going on there is definitely coming, if that makes sense. So what I would say, if you have a child who's dyslexic, start reading, okay, dyslexia in America, dyslexia in the workplace, dyslexia, start having, because then when you know the kind of discussions that are going on globally, you'll get excited. I get excited for my daughter because I know that if there was ever a time that she was to be born dyslexic, it is now. because I know what is going on. I know the conversations that are happening. There are job descriptions that are asking for her skills. She has them in abundance. But if you don't know that and you're pulling down your child, then late it's like, I see footballers all the time, especially African footballers. They'll be like, I heard they were being chastised when they were growing up for not being serious. Now they're signed to Chelsea. Now you see their mom, Kente or whatever, walking and moving, shaking herself. Hey, my son, my daughter, or whatever it is. Yeah. So we need to understand that the next big buzz is the people with the skills that our children have. You know, you don't need to be able to regurgitate. My daughter now picks up her phone, she talks, the whole thing has been written. The whole thing, the article has been written. She still likes writing and are very good at writing. But where we are going, even you and I will not be writing in pen and paper anymore. Like we will not. So what is the next frontier? Please. And I'm not saying this to even my panelists, it's anyone that is listening now live, but also those that may listen afterwards. Our children are literally the next frontier. Like we are blessed. We are blessed. I could retire earlier because of my children. We thank the good Lord.
Agnes, if someone is here and you make them jealous because they don't have
I
a
will
child
make you
with,
jealous, please. I have
last
it in my home.
last week I was with adult dyslexics, and I think after the conversation, one of them got some messages from their friend like, "So are you saying to us that we that we are not dyslexic, we are not special or what?" And the person said, "Look, you guys have been so special forever. Now this is our time." And we have a great comment from Sarah McCain. She's ADO ambassador. We love her so much. She was actually one of the panel members yesterday, last week with us. She's dyslexic, and her daughter, her son, and her husband is dyslexic. So a house full of dyslexic people. And I tell you, this family, they are so talented. And she says, indeed, is a gift, and we are so fortunate to be born with this amazing gift of dyslexia. Just that the world doesn't understand yet. Yes, what? Okay, can somebody say I can't pronounce that word though?
We get to
Regurgitation. Yes, regurgitation of information. It will soon be a thing of the past, which is what I was saying. That's how our curriculum was, the regurgitating the information.
Exactly. You see, my dyslexic came in. I can't pronounce, and it's okay. Somebody read it for me. It doesn't change Rosalind. It doesn't change my can't.
No.
So this is what it is. I could always ask somebody to read, and so her heart is filled with joy today, hearing you all mothers. And we have great comments here, brilliant discussion. Some of us are learning a lot, and so know that if nobody, you feel like nobody is on, at least somebody is impacting somebody here. Um, I would say that no, I think Equia will go. Equia, if you can hear me, what is your aspiration for your son?
I see my son as a gift that keeps on giving. I mean, it's been a journey, and at every stage, I just sit back and I say, "Wow!" I mean, who knew that um, I could actually own this beautiful gift and this special human being? And you the possibilities are just endless. The journey is beautiful. I'm excited about his growth. I'm not going to be a pushy parent, and I think he's just going to blossom in the way that best suits him. I'm like very excited about the future for him. Very, very, very excited. I have my popcorn ready, to see how he will turn out, and the possibilities are just endless, endless, really, what he can become. So I'm very proud of him. I'm excited. I sleep better at night. There's been times, years ago that I would praying. Are you kidding? I've done it all. I didn't understand it. I was worried. I was afraid. And now I'm just such a proud mom, and you know, because I can't wait. I can't wait. So we have gifts, for all you moms who are here, or moms, parents listening. We have such amazing gifts, and we should open ourselves up to how these gifts are going to turn out and mold and change the future, and just be the best versions of themselves, and us, in fact, be better versions of us that we can never be. So, you know, thank God for the blessings that we have, the gifts that we have, and just the positiveness that is going to turn out. So, yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing. And Sabina, we can see you. And hello to you. She's also a super dyslexic mom raising a superstar son in her house. And I'm just happy to see the transformation. And one thing we have to emphasize here, early intervention for our children is key. Our children can learn how to read. You heard Imara is reading history books, Sophie is reading history book, Abrina is also reading. So early intervention. When you see the signs, don't wait for the child to grow. Because for me, if I want to have intervention now, I don't know how long it's going to take me, but we have that opportunity to help our children and they will learn how to read. It will take them time, but they would definitely learn how to read. And I'm saying this because Sabina's son started reading and writing within the space of 6 months. And that is the power of you knowing and you waking up and saying, I'm looking for the support for the child and really being like patient as well and showing love, encouragement, and all that. You turn things around. So we are ending our
Before we end, I just
discussion
wanted to say one thing to Dorcas, because it might help the parents as well. You said that your daughter's interested in piano and she's interested in dance. So what I was just thinking, it just came to my mind as Rosalind was talking, is getting her so many books in those areas. Like any
Okay.
book that is about a pianist or anything like that, any
Okay.
books around dancing, that are child friendly, because we know that she likes that. And it will take her a while to get it, but because it will be at home, it's something that on her way to church, on her way to school in the car, she can be reading and reading and reading.
All right. Thank you.
Fantastic. Yes. And before we head out, I'm going to read a few comments here. Elizabeth Na says, very educative discussion. Thank you, our wonderful mothers, for sharing their knowledge with us. I've learned a lot. We also have a comment from all the way in, I just missed it. So as I'm looking for the comments, I want you all to use within less than a minute. Say something from your heart to our teachers. Say something from your heart to our parents. And we can start with Agnes.
But okay,
These are your last words.
okay, to our teachers, I just implore you to find the gift in every child. Every child learns differently, but once you activate their gift, they will remember you for the rest of their lives, and you will change their lives by doing that. And to parents out there, take time to know your child. Take time to understand them. You are their advocate. You are their voice. As long as they're 18 or under, I don't know if it's 21 or under in Ghana, but let's say 18 and under from where I'm at. You are their mouthpiece, you are their voice, you are their protector. God has given you that child because He knows that you are the person to be able to activate that child's gift. That is your assignment. So do your assignment well whilst you are their guardian, in terms of, we're always guardian for our children for however long they are, but whilst they're young enough, or they're too young to be able to be their own guardian, you are their guardian and protector. Do not take that lightly, right? Do not compare yourself left and right. Your child, keep your eye on your child, your children. They are all different, like our fingerprints. Deal with your assignment, activate their gift, and you will be blessed tenfold, a hundredfold, once they get to adulthood.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Agnes. And Dorcas, please, you can go ahead. What do you
So,
think, parents and
to
I?
our teachers, they should be able to read more about dyslexia. They should research, know what it is about, what children but dyslexics need to know how we should treat them. Teachers would please do this for us so that they would know how to handle our children. And then to parents, I would always say this: let's love them, let's show them so much love. We shouldn't discriminate. We have more kids, not just one. So don't let the one who has dyslexia feel bad. We should treat them equally. We shouldn't discriminate because that wouldn't help both the dyslexics and those who are not. We should treat them equally and know how to handle every child. And then I want to say that there is hope. Na used to do her homework in a jotter before we transfer it into her exercise book. But now she does it directly in her exercise book, which means things are getting better. If we work on them, if we are there to support them, they would get better. Things would change. I know there is hope for every dyslexic out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Madam Ekia.
I think everybody said everything, but words have power, and the words that we use for our children is very important. Our children are they can break very easily. They're very fragile, so our words should be positive. And as parents, we should be the biggest hype masters of all. I mean, if anybody is going to believe in your child needs you to be the biggest believer, because when you don't, they're broken and will break them. And once they're broken, it's so difficult to fix. So let's be careful with our words. Let's hype them. Let's empower them. And with the teachers, it's a partnership. When this for the long haul, and each child learns differently. We need to figure out how each child learns and support. And as parents, put in your all, make the investments necessary. Um, our children are worth so much more, and every investment is worth it. It's an investment; it will pay off. So let's do whatever it takes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. I want to say a big thank you to you, our parents, because what you've done today is going to change many, many lives. There are parents, like we said, who diagnose their children and they even shy away to talk about it. They don't even make themselves available. They are saying, I won't take my child to this school because they will be labeled. I don't want you to say this and all that. And I know you have putting yourself out there. And now everybody knows that you have dyslexic children because you are comfortable with it and you shared, and it's going to change mindset of a parent. It's going to change a mindset of so I just want to say a huge, huge thank you and God bless you for all you do. I will call on you very soon again for us to do more things because there's something that is on my heart called the parent dyslexic parent cycle. And this is just to help new parents who get their children diagnosed as dyslexic or any form of related learning challenges so that they can have the confidence and get your support and you guide them through the journey. So I'll be calling on you very soon. Thank you all for joining us
Oh,
today.
please, before you go, Rosalind, would also like to thank you for the good work you are doing. Yes, you have been so supportive. You are doing a lot for dyslexics, and we are grateful. We want to thank you too for the great work you are doing. God bless you, Lady Rosa.
Oh my goodness, thank you. And you all have supported the work. I mean, uh, Madame Pierre's point, I have been boots in 2020 during COVID time. You doctors have joined in, Agnes have joined in, and she has even added her child. So you all, we are raising, it takes a village to raise a child. And I feel like Africa Dyslexia Organization is that child that we are all raising. It's not about me. Because if anything is about me, I should be somewhere in the West using my skills that I have to get my $1 million into my account. This has nothing to do about me, but it has something to do with the lives that is going to change because I remember that I wasn't the only child who wasn't good in school. but some of my friends who were not good, and I could see now that I'm doing dyslexia, I could see they have good talents. Some of them, you ask about them, and this girl, oh, she now has about 6 children. She's living in some village somewhere, and you see they'll put on your
Oh,
platform, let's raise money for the person. And then I watch and I'm like, Rosalind, you could have been that person. And so, how do we stop children from getting into situations like that? And for me, that's the motivation behind the work that we're doing. And I'm so grateful to be connected to all of you, and you are supporting me in diverse ways to make this happen. And so, thank you so much. God bless you all. Okay,
amen.
so everybody watching us, December is Dyslexia Stakeholders Forum on the 11th of December at the British Council. We're coming back with our second edition of Dyslexia Education Stakeholders Forum. If you are an educator here, please start. This time around, we are charging a small fee. It's 350 cedis. Early bird is 250. You can call me now and register all your teachers to come. Please make sure you are there. Don't miss out. We are also having our ongoing research. Please, this is the link on it. Please, 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 if you're an educator, take this link and let all your friends, colleagues, and everybody take this survey for us, because we need this data to stand on it to really be able to make our voice heard and to get you the resources that you need. A lot of you are contacting us for structured training, certification training. Some of them are very expensive, like $2,000 plus. We may not have the money, but if we take this survey, we will be able to tell Ministry of Education to sponsor you for some of this training, or come to your school and be able to justify to your school owners, those in the private schools, that this is relevant. So please help us. And we have also launched the Africa Dyslexia Advocates Fellowship. And so far two, we have 165 applications from 32 African countries. Our hope is to get 2 people in each African country. So please support us, share the link for us. And we thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Somebody say it's her calling. This is Dr. Bernard. She's always telling me dyslexia is my calling. I accept it wholeheartedly. If that's the my gospel I need to preach, I will do that. Thank you all, my parents, once again, and I wish you a blissful night to our viewers. Bye. But parents, stay. Thank you.